Hello everybody, I'm Sean, and in today's video I want to talk about why do criminals commit crime. And I really want to dive deep into criminal psychology and the psychology behind criminals and crime, and really just answer the question, why do criminals commit crimes? Why do they do the things they do? So crime has become a big study in psychology, and it's very interesting to learn why criminals commit crime, and it's also very important because a lot of psychology behind criminals can really help you understand one's motive. That's huge. A lot of people want to understand the motive because it doesn't make sense just to do something, like so horrific and so bad for no good reason. There's always going to be a motive that a lot of times is very complex and can really help you understand why people do the things they do. Why do people assault people? Why do they hurt people? Why do they want to harm people? Why do they go on these serial runs of doing these things? Why do people go to that? Why do people subject to that? Many criminals commit crimes for certain reasons based off of trauma, anger, rejection, and some have many psychopathic traits or tendencies, and a lot of crimes, like I said, are done for no really good reason, and a lot of criminals have serious psychological issues which can cause them to break the law and really just commit crimes because of these issues that they have. And to dive more deep, why do criminals choose certain people to be their victim? I really want to answer that because nobody really asks to be a victim on purpose, and crime and being a bad person, there's no valid excuse for that. And according to scientific research done, criminals may choose victims to assault and hurt based on their movements, based on how one moves, because a lot of these criminals choose people, maybe for example Jeffrey Dahmer, he chose criminals picking them up at bars. He would pick them up as if he's trying to have a relationship with them, something like that. So a lot of people are in public and criminals just choose their victims off of that, and they perceive them as a certain way, and a lot of them may victimize somebody who they perceive as someone who's uncomfortable or disresonated from their body, because a lot of times that's what criminals sometimes feel. They don't feel comfortable, they don't feel good, and they want to choose these people as their victims. They want to hurt these people because essentially they want to hurt themselves, but they take it out onto other people. Because a lot of times when we have tendencies, when we have trauma, especially from childhood trauma, from family, a lot of times what develops is very common is this murderous rage to hurt these people because you're so mad at them of why they did it. And to be honest, that's a normal thing. But then you have these psychopathic people and these criminals who also may went through trauma, but instead of just thinking about it or having this rage, they actually do it and actually commit the crimes to cope with their feelings, right? Because that anger, sometimes you just have to let loose and let that anger flow. But you know that that's wrong. You know that you're not going to do that. But then these other people like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, people like that commit these crimes for who knows what reason, but commit these crimes really because that's their way of coping. They want to kill people and hurt people and assault people because of their trauma. That's their way to cope. So a lot of people who are victimized and people who are criminals who choose people to be their victims may choose the victims actually who walk a certain way and carry themselves in a certain way. You may be wondering, why am I telling you this? How does this relate to me? Because it's very important to know if you're in danger or not, because, you know, especially if you live in a dangerous neighborhood or you're walking through a dangerous place at one time and you feel something's off. Most of the time when your intuition tells you that, it's true, something is off. And it's very important to understand why criminals commit crimes, because, you know, crime has become a huge thing in this world, and a lot of people watch the news, turn on the news, figure out these crimes, and nobody really takes the time to understand it. And it can cause, you know, chaos in this world, because peace has been taken away from us in this world. And obviously I'm not saying crimes are right and what people did is right, but you really have to understand, especially if you knew someone who was a victim of a crime, of a hateful crime, of a, you know, horrific crime like that, like murder or, you know, something like that, horrific. It's very helpful and very healing to understand why your person did that, especially for sexual trauma too. It's very important to understand why they did it. Not saying that what they did is right, but it's helpful to understand and very healing to understand. But still, like I said, there's no excuse to being a bad person, no excuse to committing any crime. Criminals choose their victims who walk a certain way and carry themselves in a certain way. A lot of convicted assaulters choose people who have an abnormal way of movement. And this is really when you're in public and maybe you have the abnormal way of movement, such as swinging your arms weirdly or moving your leg strides too far. That is not you. That is essentially what the criminals pick up on. That's what they perceive, and researchers actually think that this is what the criminals pick up on without even knowing it. You know, essentially it's a tendency they have to choose their victim, because essentially a lot of victims are chosen by criminals because they stand out. They are chosen by criminals because they are different, they look different, they don't blend in, essentially. And really, this leads me to ask and answer, how do we prevent ourselves from being victimized? Because if this is how we are victimized, then we have to be very careful, because someone right next to you could be a criminal. You never know people's tendency these days. People have a lot of psychopathic tendencies, and with the criminals we've seen in this world, you know, more crime that may have happened 20 years ago, but it's becoming relevant now and becoming popular now, like Jeffrey Dahmer, Charles Cullen, right? And you really just think about it. It's very important to know how to prevent yourselves from being victimized, because it can happen to anybody, and it's for your own safety. So a lot of us in public have our phones glued to our eyes, and we're really just not aware in public. And not saying that you have to be so hyper aware when you're in public and you're out somewhere at a restaurant or something like that, but when you're in a dangerous place or a dangerous neighborhood, or you're walking through some dark alleyway, it's very important to show that you are aware, because you never know where a criminal might be watching you and might come up to attack you or something like that, or try to assault you or try to kidnap you. It's very important to show that you are aware in the moment, and so you don't look distracted or vulnerable. So essentially, the more attention you show to others, the less attention you will attract. And this is all very important to know, like I said, for your own safety. And like I said before, if you feel something is off, 9 times out of 10, something is definitely off. Like, if you feel someone is taking you somewhere, and this is very important because a lot of people these days are meeting people through relationships on dating apps, you know, you're meeting with strangers. It's very important to know that if you feel something is off, that is your intuition. And if you genuinely feel something is wrong, 10 times out of 10, not 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, it is wrong, and you need to take a safe route. And So really, it's very important to just know this, because there is a lot behind criminal psychology, and in more videos I will go dive more deep into it, because I am interested in criminal psychology, because I've always wondered, why do people commit crimes? Why do people do certain things? Why do they commit crimes? Why do they want to do these things? And it's just very interesting to me. And if you have these tendencies like murderous rage, like I was talking about, that does not mean that you are a psychopath. Not all killers and murderers and terrible criminals, I mean, are terrible people. They're not trying to be a bad person. A lot of times our unresolved trauma takes over, and it makes us become a bad person, but they don't want to be a bad person. But still, like I said, there's no excuse. So just stay safe, protect yourself, and just know that people you let into your life should not automatically have your trust. Trust is something that you have to gain. So yeah, but that's it for the video. Subscribe, and I'm out.